welcome to another episode of Making Mindset Matter with me, your host, Lorna McKenna. If you haven't already done so, please do click the subscribe or follow button so you can be notified when a new episode comes out. So the title of today's episode is Choosing Your Discomfort. And if you're thinking, what do you mean by that? I'm going to talk about why change is uncomfortable, but why not changing is also uncomfortable. And then asking you really which discomfort are you choosing? Because for so long, this is not something that I really understood what it meant. But now I've embarked on the growth journey and understanding how your mindset affects things. I understand the power of choosing your discomfort and actually taking a look at yourself and taking a look at your scenarios and the situations you're in and actually thinking, is this uncomfortable in a good way because I'm going to grow, or am I staying there because it's comfortable, but actually it's not what I want to do? And I'm recording this episode on the back of this week, on the back of making a huge change in my life this week and putting myself into an extremely uncomfortable position. So I don't think I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but I actually started mindset coaching at the start of this year around my full-time job. It's something I'm truly passionate about, hence why the podcast Making Mindset Matter. And I realised this recently, that my full-time job was holding me back from pursuing something that I was really passionate about. So I recognised that I was uncomfortable in this situation, in a job that didn't really fulfil me, that I wasn't passionate about, wasn't bringing me any kind of fulfillment, that I didn't particularly enjoy the job role that I was in. And I had something that I was really passionate about, which is coaching, which is helping people, which is just to help people to understand why mindset matters so they can live a life that they truly want to do. And that's something I'm truly passionate about. But I recognise that having the comfort of a full-time salary was really holding me back from pushing myself forward. So I had to make a change. So I've put myself into an extremely uncomfortable position. I've left my 9 to 5 with not matching the monthly income that I'm making from my full-time job. And now I'm into this state where it has to work. I have no choice. But I've chose my uncomfortable. It was more uncomfortable for me sitting in a job that I wasn't feeling fulfilled with, not doing something I was truly passionate about, than it is taking that leap and removing all that comfort and safety net and just literally leaning into the fear and just going for it anyway. And I've said this on my Instagram. I don't know if some of you may follow me on Instagram, but I did a video about it the other day. I am in a fortunate position. I don't have masses of responsibility of other people that are relying on me. For example, I don't have a partner, I don't have children, I don't have a mortgage. So I'm in a fortunate position, but I've chose my uncomfortable now. I've got to lean into it and just enjoy every moment. So recognise it. The first part of choosing your discomfort is recognising that change is uncomfortable. Change of any kind is uncomfortable, whether that be you maybe want to change a job because you're leaving what you know. It could be a relationship that you're in that you're not happy in, but it's uncomfortable because we get used to having someone there. It may be that you're not happy with the way you look. For me, for example, on my journey, it was about my weight loss. I was uncomfortable with the way that I looked. It may be that you recognise things in yourself that you want to change, but you know that making them changes, it's going to be uncomfortable because you're going to have to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to have to really face up. It could be anything. It could be even that you want to move house or change some furniture around. Anything, any type of change is uncomfortable because it means that we have to take the action and change things, and it takes us out of that comfort zone. Because it takes us out of this place where it's like a safety net. It takes you out of this place where it feels nice. And I'll talk about the comfort zone as your comfort zone is a place where you feel safe because our brain, going back years and years, was designed for survival. So that's why we have this place where it feels like safety. So when we make any change, our brain sees it as a threat. And that's why but it's not a threat to our life, it's just but the brain can't distinguish. So that is why when we step outside of our comfort zone or we start to make these changes, there's a resistance, and the resistance is trying to pull us back. And so if you imagine an elastic band, when you're on a growth journey or on any form of change, whether that be like personal growth, changing job, working on, I don't know, losing weight, for example, working on yourself, any kind of change, when we start to make changes, there will always be this resistance, this little voice in your head that and I've experienced this so many times. Like, for example, I feel like I'm just like, my brain's just like, there's just so many different things. So for example, training for this half marathon, I've spoken about it before. Today, I woke up this morning, I didn't feel like I wanted to go for a run. Part of me was like, nah, just get into bed. Just stay in bed for 5 more minutes, you don't need to run. But the other part of me was like, no, you've committed to this. So there was a resistance. But I lent into that uncomfortableness of going for a run, even though I'm not feeling 100%, and did it. But on the other side of that, I felt absolutely amazing afterwards. And it's the same with anything, with any transition, with any change. On the other side of changing them things, yes, we have to go through this discomfort, and it's uncomfortable making these steps forward. But on the other side of it, there's always usually something much greater. And even if sometimes you make a change and it's not greater than what you thought, there is always a lesson. So there is a positive to both. And just by you making that change and making that step forward just shows your commitment to your growth and your commitment to change. But on the flip side of that, not changing is uncomfortable, because to sit somewhere where you're not happy, you're not fulfilled, you're just going by, you're maybe in a job that is actually making you miserable, that you're dreading, or you are doing something that just genuinely doesn't fulfill you. You may be in a relationship that you know is not making you happy, but that more scared of being on your own because that makes you feel uncomfortable, that you stay somewhere that is not actually making you happy. And trust me, I'm speaking from experience. I've done this before. I've stayed in a relationship that I knew did not make me happy, but it's because I was so unhappy in myself. The thought of being on my own was more scary. But sometimes we just gotta rip the bandage off, and we gotta remember, like, what is the worst that can happen? That's usually my go-to, like, if I'm making an uncomfortable decision, like, what is the worst that's going to happen? Yes, we go through times of when we feel upset, but just remember that everything is temporary, and it's just about how we view that and how you view it. And I'm not saying, like, not trying to like diminish how anybody feels, because it's not, because all emotions are valid, and sometimes it may take us a little bit longer, but we do get through it, and time is obviously the greatest here. Just another example of not changing, if you're unhappy with the way you look, for example, with me, I was severely overweight. That's uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me to get through day-to-day life in certain things, like getting out of breath easily, so that's uncomfortable. Not recognising things you want to change but staying the same is also uncomfortable. So it's just about recognising that if you register that there is something that you want to change and then you choose not to change it, that is also a discomfort, and that is also uncomfortable. So my question is to you is, which discomfort do you choose? Do you sit here in the discomfort of staying in it, of staying the way things are? Or do you want the discomfort of doing the work and working through it to be on the other side? Because what it all comes down to is that either way we are going to be uncomfortable. The worst case scenario is usually already happening, because we're in this state where we know we're not happy, we know that something is not going to change, but we think that the thing that we want to change is this big scary thing. But actually what's happening right now to you, or right now to me, it probably feels big and scary, and often it's sometimes difficult to find a way out of it. But that's why you have to choose which is uncomfortable. Like, which uncomfortable do you want to be in? Like I said, do you want to sit here in the discomfort of staying the same, of staying in this state of uncomfortableness where you're not feeling fulfilled, you know that you want to change something and you just stay there? Or do you go through that discomfort of actually taking the action, doing the work, and coming through the other side of it? Because growth comes on the other side of our comfort zone. So obviously it wouldn't be an episode of Making Mindset Matter without some journal prompts for you to do or an exercise. So what I want you to do is this. The first thing you want to do is, with any form of change, is to get real with yourself. And I am currently reading David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me, and I cannot recommend this book enough to people. Like, his mental resilience, and there's lots of challenges in the book that do very similar things. And it's all about actually getting real with yourself, just looking and taking a long, hard look in the mirror and actually just looking at yourself and asking yourself what is uncomfortable for you right now. So don't ignore it, no more rationalising it, and we all do it like, oh, well, it's not that bad, because just get really real with yourself. If you're feeling uncomfortable about something, don't ignore it, don't rationalise it, don't resist it, or don't try and plan around it. Just ask yourself, really, what is uncomfortable for me right now? And when I say, like, be completely honest with yourself, be the most honest you've ever been, and ask yourself, what is uncomfortable right now? And then once you've made this list of things that are uncomfortable for you right now, I then want you to ask yourself and talk to yourself about making the changes, and ask yourself what scares you about them changes. And what is going to be uncomfortable about that change? Because it is uncomfortable to change. So it's about asking yourself, what is going to be uncomfortable about that change? So, as an example, I always go back to weight loss because it's probably the easier thing I can relate to. You might not be happy with, you might want to lose weight as an example. Or you might want to get healthier, but it's uncomfortable because you're going to have to change your habits. You may need to go exercise. It's just about asking you what is going to be uncomfortable about that change. So you have your first list of what is uncomfortable for you right now. And then you're going to have your second list of what is going to be uncomfortable about the change. And then I want you to take them two lists and choose which is more uncomfortable for you, which is your discomfort. Is it the list of the things that are uncomfortable for you right now, or the things that is going to be uncomfortable about the change? And then I want you to sit there and just choose. Everything in life is a choice, so choose your discomfort. Choose your discomfort of staying in the place where you are now and not being happy with something, or choose a discomfort of change. So I am going to leave it there for this episode. But yeah, it's just to remember that growth comes on the other side of your comfort zone. We have to get uncomfortable. We have to do these things to make us uncomfortable in order to grow. Our brain will have this amazing technique on tricking us where it tries to pull us back into that comfort zone. But just lean into the fear like I talk about in episode 1. Lean into that fear and just go for it anyway. You can make any changes you want in your life. You are under no obligation of being who you was 5 minutes ago. I can't remember who says that quote, but it's true. You can make the choice to change at any point. So embrace the change, embrace the journey, and just remember, choose your discomfort. The discomfort of change, or is this discomfort of staying exactly where you are right now? So yeah. But as always, I am always interested to hear your key takeaways from the episode. So I always love to connect with the listeners and people and you that are listening to the podcast. So you can find me on Instagram at @LornaMcKenna_. And I've got a very exciting announcement coming very soon. So I will announce that on the podcast in the coming weeks. But as always, I will leave it with you. Here is to making your mindset truly matter.